Got it. And 11. No, I had 12. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Rules and Procedures Committee to order. It is 7:01, 7:02 on my clock, I should say. And what we're going to discuss this evening is, we're going to start out with ordinance. Oh, I had it written down here. Okay. Fiscal year 21-011, general ordinance, amend Article 2, Section 2-1 of the town charter. Okay. And we will pull up that one, and Councilman Sean George, would you like to say something on that one? Everybody
Sure.
is. Go ahead.
So I think with this one, the initial discussion is around our recommendation for the number of counselors to be proposed for Bridgewater. Now, this was brought to the council and rules and procedures in the advancedness of the state coming to us saying that we're going to have to make some changes to our form of government due to the growth of Bridgewater and our population growth. So with that being said, we did have a presentation from our town clerk. So in the spirit of that, you know, I think from my approach to this, I don't personally do not have a number to fall on. I firmly believe that I would recommend bringing this back to the council with no recommendation, and at the council meeting tonight, have a full discussion on trying to determine what the makeup number-wise of the council would be. That's my view on this.
Well, so are we just discussing the number of counselors, or are we discussing whether we think the districts versus the at-large numbers? Is that what we're talking about?
I think it is. Sorry, go ahead, Councilor George.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think it's actually both. I think it's the full number and then how that number is divided between district and at-large.
Right.
And I would also agree with Councilor George. I would rather have the discussion with the full council before suggesting a number here.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So
I'll make a motion
I was
to
just gonna say
refer
a
back.
motion's in order.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to refer back to the town council with no recommendation.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
All right. We have a motion made in a second to send it back to the council with no recommendation. Could we have a roll call vote? Sean?
Yes.
Excuse me. Eric?
Yes.
And I myself is yes. So we have a 3-vote yes. We're sending that fiscal year 21-011 back to the full council, which is at this evening's meeting following this, for their recommendations. Okay, now we have FY 21-12, the general ordinance, administrative code change, part 2, chapter 1, article 2. Want to
So again, I would recommend sending this back to the council with no recommendation. Since we didn't have a recommendation for the makeup of counselors and at-large counselors, this would mirror that. So my recommendation would be to refer back to the council with no, send back to the council with no recommendation.
I
okay.
agree with that as well.
So do we have a motion and a second on that?
I'll make a motion to refer back to the town council with no recommendation.
I'll second.
Any comments on it? I agree with this. This is just an awful lot of information, and we haven't really had the time to sit together and really discuss it. We've had some outside help, there's no question about it. And we see that. So, okay, we have a motion and a second, no more comments. We have roll call, Sean,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes,
myself is yes, so it's 3-0. Both of these items are going to go to the council meeting, which is at 7 o'clock this evening. And so the whole group of these will be discussed during that meeting.
So Frank, I'm going to make a motion for DFY 22-002 through 011. I'll make a
Yeah.
motion to put this on our next schedule agenda for review.
I'll second that.
I'll explain why, because I know we have people on the phone, and I want to make it
Okay,
look
so
like
we have
we're
a
putting
motion
it off.
and a second, so now
Yep.
we can have a discussion on it. Go ahead,
Yep.
open up.
So the reason for that is at the prior meeting, we went through some really detailed review from our town attorney in regards to things that have to be changed in these ordinances, not to change the spirit or intent, but some of it has to do with legal language as well as referring to the right sections of the charter or the administrative code per se. There needs to be tweaks to that. We're going to need to ask for professional help on this, seeing that this is a legal and living document, to have those reviews done so that when it comes back to us, we're discussing accurate ordinances, referring the right sections, and again, not looking to change the spirit of what we got for recommendations from the Charter Review Committee. So hence the reason I'm making the motion to move these to our next scheduled meeting.
Okay, so what you're looking for is at the next meeting, we will take each one of them in depth along with our town attorney to come in with a recommendation, or the council coming in with a vote?
Well, Frank, I'll leave it up to you to find out from, the council president, what resources we have. Is it the town attorney? Do we go out and find another attorney per se that has expertise with this, that can be our eyes and ears? I mean, I don't know, but my approach to this is we need more help than just the three of us sitting down and going through these without having that type of in-depth review to make sure that everything go back to the council for the final disposition is accurate.
Okay, I'm just not ignoring you. I'm writing some notes.
No, I know.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's kind of what we had some conversation about, but it was never really set in stone as to where we were actually going to go. That's kind of why we're here, and then we're following up with another meeting after this, is to sort of guidance as to what we really need after we took a serious look at all this stuff. And so we have a motion and a second, and I'm going to do a roll call vote.
Maybe actually just before the roll call vote.
Yes, go right ahead.
I think just to build on what Councillor George said, getting an expert that can help us understand it. But specifically, I think our council was giving us areas where the language might not actually have enough clarity and could be open to interpretation. So we would want to make sure that whatever help we got would be able to identify those specific clauses in the changes and suggest alternative language there. So just to even put a finer point on at least one part of that ask.
Okay. All right, then we'll have a roll call vote. Sean,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
I'm a yes, so that's a 3-0 to send it to the council meeting following this meeting for further discussion. And there's nothing else on my agenda at this time. I'm sure we have some visitors out there who probably might want to say something, but that would have been in the beginning.
No, public comment can be at the end.
Okay,
I think it's at
let's
the end.
open up the public comment to see if there's anyone there so we can get it. Sean? I mean, Josh, just open up the public comments, if you will, please. Let's see who's up.
I believe Ed Ivaldi just came off mute.
Yep. Hi, guys. Thanks for allowing me to join and speak here. So my original intent was to comment on one of the ordinances that you've pushed aside. So that's good. I can give my comments on that at a later time. But I guess I just wanted to mention that, or remind you that the recommendations were made to the council back on June 29th. And here we are, October the 12th. And really the council has done really not a lot with the recommendations. So there's a sense of, I don't know, frustration on my part that not a lot has been done on this so far. Now, I know there's been other things, obviously, that take a higher priority, but I think the hope was that we would be ready next April to get something before the voters. The clock is ticking, and I know that the redistricting obviously takes priority, but I'm hoping that some level of priority can be given to this. Otherwise, we're going to miss that opportunity, and we're either going to have to call a special meeting sometime next year, or wait till the following year. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Frank, you're on mute.
Just raise your hand.
I'm trying to.
Right here.
There we go.
I
Okay,
think Mary Lee.
Merrily,
Yes, thank you, councilors. I must say, along with Mr. Ivaldi, I'm a bit frustrated too. I thought this would be an opportunity to actually speak to councilors and explain a few things about the precincting and the change of the charter language. But evidently that didn't rise to a level of importance. I hope that we'll be able to speak about it at the council meeting tonight. I hope someone will bring that up and someone will ask questions. I would say much of my frustration stems from the fact that I've given 3 presentations and no one has asked any questions that could allow me to clarify. And yet the council appears to want to have a workshop. And I wonder what materials you're going to use to work with, because all those materials are sitting in my office and I've been working on them since March. And my office's requirement is to send a recommendation to the council. So I've done that. Nobody asked any questions about it. And I can't kind of conceive how the council is going to come up with something else when you don't have the tools to work with to do that. So I had hoped that this meeting would be a chance to at least talk to 3 councilors about what it means to change the charter to fit with the precincting, which of course is a relatively easy thing to do and could have gone in with a recommendation if you felt like it. But just wanted to say that.
Mrs. Hunt, I don't think you can, we're here to listen. So, I mean, if you want to go through the recommendations or comments and things of that nature, you're more than welcome to. This is a committee meeting. So
Yeah.
if you want to, by all means, we're here. So if you'd like.
But you already voted on the issue that I would be speaking to. So it seems kind of irrelevant, doesn't it?
Well, we voted not to recommend because we wanted to have it at a full council discussion. So we didn't say anything to the contrary of what you recommended, nor have we said anything to recommend it either. But I think between the 3 of us, we didn't feel comfortable going back to the council saying we should have X, we should have Y, without having a full council discussion.
Exactly. That was my point. I felt that I could give you some points that you could take into that full council discussion. When you take it to them, even with a recommendation, they're not going to rubber stamp your recommendation. I presume they would want to know what your reasoning was. And I would have given you, hopefully, some reasoning on that.
Mrs. Hunt, if you'd like, I'm still on the fence, so I'm all ears.
Yeah, I would echo that. And I think
Yep.
maybe I misunderstood this evening's larger meeting, but I think there is opportunity for discussion in that as well. So I am very interested in hearing what you have to say here. I want to make sure that's not.
Okay, I just hate to interrupt your meeting when it could have been quick and you could be done. But I think it's worth it for you to have some explanations. So I'm happy to do that if that is okay with all of you.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. So my recommendation has been before to not put any number in the charter, because I felt that then you can do it in the administrative code. You can change the administrative code much more easily than you can change the charter. It's just changed by the council itself, and you can put any numbers in there. Since I did understand that the council really doesn't prefer to do that, and when I heard a preference from the council that you wanted to stay with 9 counselors, which I did, that was said to me. So I have premised everything on 9 counselors, and whether they are precinct counselors or whether they are at-large counselors can fully be done in the administrative code. So it's very possible to put the number 9 into the charter, 9 counselors, and have that be the administrative code can tell you whether it's going to be 6 district counselors and 3 at-large counselors, or 9 at-large counselors, or 9 district counselors. Does that make sense to you?
It does, Mrs. Hunt, but, and Jason's not here. There was some back and forth in regards to not putting numbers into either one of those and trying to get that, well,
Yeah.
I don't want to go in the wrong direction because I'm not 100% sure, but I know there was discussion around not putting specific numbers, but I think in one particular conversation, whatever we submit to the legislation has to have numbers, or
Yeah.
a number, I should say.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
Jason said, and that's why we've premised, I mean, you're not going to have a recommendation that isn't going to say 9 counselors. Whether they are district counselors, whether they are at-large counselors, whether they are 6 district counselors and 3 at-large counselors, that's going to be up to the admin code or something like that. But you are not going to have, there is not a recommendation. There is not a way to do the maps and do precincting that isn't going to have 9 counselors.
Okay.
Okay?
That-
Unless you've created a way. Maybe you've been doing some background work and I don't know about it, and you've been working with Yuri and getting all the maps and all that sort of thing, and you have something else that you want to recommend, although when it goes to the second.
So Mrs. Hunt, for the point, there's only 3 of us.
Yes.
So we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So you could be 100% right, or there could be another counselor coming to the table with an alternate recommendation that we don't know about, because we can't talk about those things outside of the meeting.
Right. I would suggest if that had happened, that person would have had to work with me, because I am the one appointed by the state to make this recommendation. I'm the one who has done the research. I am the one who has worked with the Secretary of State's office. I am the one who legally is mandated to make the recommendation. So nobody's talked to me about it. Nobody's come in and said, how can we redo some maps? Or, can you send us some material so that we can rework this? Or can you send me Yuri's phone number so that I can call him and get some new maps made? Or anything like that. So I don't know how you would have materials to make another recommendation.
Maybe if I could add, I think part of what you're seeing is I think the team is just starting to absorb the information.
Mhm.
And the discussion today could lead to the types of questions that you're asking about, right? Where as we get more information or we hear what maybe someone's trying to accomplish, we would need to then go out and do the research. And the timeline is very tight, I recognize, but I think that's really the main reason we didn't put anything in, or that's my reason, at least today, to not put anything in, just because we haven't had that larger discussion. And I could imagine, I would imagine we would make a motion to insert that after we know where everybody stands on that. But I think we just haven't had that discussion yet.
It feels to me like the council thinks that there is something they can do to work with the maps and draw the precinct lines. I just want to be sure that, at least you're sure, that that isn't something that can happen. That isn't something that can feasibly happen.
Yeah,
That work is done. It's over. It's done. And they're waiting at the state for us to send this up to them. Yeah, Senator Pacheco said today at the McElwain thing, get it to us. You got to get it to us now. That's what Angelo told me last week. Now the town attorney is saying it isn't that big a rush. I'll show you, if the council gives me a chance to do the rest of the presentations tonight, I will do it, and I will show you the letter from, I think, Councilor Moore, you might have seen it because I sent you a presentation you requested earlier today. And one of the last slides in there is from the Secretary of State saying, expeditiously, please work expeditiously to get this to happen. So I don't really, I hate to sound frustrated, but I think I am, and admittedly so, that the work that I've been doing from March, somebody thinks they can sit around and do now and come up with something that's better or wiser or fairer.
Well, Mrs. Hunt, I mean, I have not heard anything along those lines. We are just trying to do the best we can to make sure that we do this right. I'm not saying not following your recommendations is doing it wrong, but personally, and my councils agreed, we did not feel comfortable putting in a number with the discussion that we're having today. The other thing that could happen is it could be referred back to us for our next meeting as well. There's always that possibility. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but at least going into the discussion today, we've said we don't have a recommendation because we want the full council participation. I don't think that's what's the word I'm looking for? Not unjust. That's not the word. Uncalled. Unnecessary. I think you get what I'm saying. Is we've got other people for this, and it's a very complicated and very important thing that we want to make sure we get done right. But we also understand we've got to be on short timeline to get this done. So
Absolutely.
I think today, and it'll be a special meeting, still has the ability for open forum and public comment. So anyone can get up there even before the discussion and give their recommendations, their feelings, things of that nature. We just can't have a discussion during that. That's all. But everyone will have the opportunity, just like any other meeting.
Right. Councilor George, my only, the thing that was my opinion here was that usually when things go to committee, the committee comes back with a recommendation on it. And then that doesn't mean that the whole council says, oh, good, 3 people said we're going to do this and let's just vote and we're going to do this. Usually there is a discussion that follows about that. And the committee says, this is why we made this recommendation. We did some background, we did some look into it, and there was a reason that we voted this. And that saves the council time if they can trust that, if it's a solid enough reason. So that's all I'm saying, is that I was hoping that there would be 3 counselors here who could understand that this is what's happened. And I understand that that's not going to happen, but that was my reasoning, that this committee could go back with a recommendation and your own opinions about it and say this makes sense to put the number 9 in there because there isn't going to be any other choice of number. So.
Any other comments from anyone else?
I think Ed Ivaldi has his hand up. I don't know if that's again or.
It's new. I'd like to make a follow-up, Mr. President, to my earlier comment. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the review of the charter, from my perspective, there's sort of two views on this. One is the legal review and one is a content review. Both of those reviews could have started simultaneously back at the end of June when the recommendations were delivered. So Jason could be going through the charter, the recommendations that we made right now, looking at all the recommendations and, noting which ones might present legal issues or concerns and which ones didn't. Likewise, this committee could be looking through content and looking at the actual recommendations and deciding if those are worthy of moving forward or not. These don't have to happen sequentially. They can be done in parallel. And I guess the frustration is that neither one has happened yet. So, I don't think you need to hire a new attorney. I think this is part of Jason's job, and he agreed to do this when we first started reviewing the charter. We talked to him about whether we should engage with him throughout the process, and he said, no, we'll wait till the very end when you make your recommendations, and then I'll go through all the recommendations. So if he hasn't started that yet, then I'm not sure why not. So, thank you.
anyone else like to comment? Josh, is there anyone else out there? Okay. Committee members, any other comments? Eric or Sean?
No additional comments.
Okay, then I think a motion is in order.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, roll call. Sean,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
myself, third, 3-0 to adjourn. And we'll be heard at the next meeting in a short time.
Thanks.
Okay.